Actually, I have zero clue on what I want to design today, which is kind of exciting, but it could also go terribly wrong as it has done in the past. But yeah, let's just get started. Okay. You know what? I'll just get straight into it. I'll work in After Effects. I kind of do 90% of my work in After Effects, even when I only do static stuff, so no motion design at all. Even though After Effects is pretty terrible for that. But I always say that working in the program you're most comfortable with is probably a good idea. Okay, so like everyone, when I start this stuff, this sort of, you know, stuff where I don't know what I want to design, I probably sit around for just about 30 to 60 minutes and don't do anything. This is the tough part. So, you know what? I'll go on Instagram. I'll do it. Let's go into my Explore page. This is kind of personal actually, but by the way, I love this photo. I saw this yesterday. It's so creative. This is not a collage. It's actually a real photo of it's a sign with some graffiti on the back, and that's just a man walking behind the sign. Super creative. I love it. No hard feelings if I scroll past something. You know what always works for personal projects? Man, that's museum branding. It says museum branding, that's the best. It's either that or music labels. This is cool. Okay. This just gave me an idea, and I kind of like the general design of this, but also I love the way they play with these super stretched paper formats. It's kind of like a brochure. So what I'll do is I'll design something in a similar format, and then I'll see if I can do some motion with that as well. It's a pretty good start to the day, and I'll just get going now. My phone is also kind of dying, so I'll have to charge that. Is it just me, or do aftermarket batteries you put in your phone always suck? They always die in 20 minutes, even though they're supposed to be fresh. Okay, all right, I've been going at it for about 30 minutes now. I have something sketched out here. One thing I want to highlight is what I'm doing right here, because I think this is really interesting. It looks boring AF, you know, because it's just basically 4 words on a white canvas, which is super boring. But what I like, word groupings, by moving these words around, whoops, you create different levels of weights, you know? Because if I put works of art more together, then this is sort of a group and contemporary stands on its own. But if I just do contemporary works, yeah, just some things to think about. I'll catch you later. You know, I'm one of those guys who always work with the same typeface when I start. This one typeface I really like by Pangram Pangram, which is called Neue Montreal. It's a really cool typeface. It's kind of Helvetica style. Sometimes I think, you know, I gotta branch out a bit more, but then again, I always like the look of the typeface. So why change it, right? Okay, I think I've done enough to earn myself some breakfast, so that's what I'll do now. I'll give you a quick rundown of my breakfast. So the same way I use the same typeface every day, I kind of make the same breakfast every day, which is gonna be 2 eggs on some bread. This is the best thing you can get. It's like a poppy seed bagel for anyone who's not from Austria. I can't tell yet if I'm gonna be happy with the results today, but I think I'm off to a good start. But what I love about working in After Effects is that I can just straight up start animating after I design. I don't have to transfer it from Figma or Illustrator to After Effects. Just all sitting in there, and for simple stuff like this, I think it's the best way of working for me. Yep. All right, so this is the preliminary design I'm working with. It's still this upright format, and I'm kind of liking it. I have these pluses that give the thing a bit of a structure, and then I'll add some analog elements to it later, I think. So it's not the craziest thinking out of the box thing I've ever seen or done, but especially once I add motion, I think it's gonna be a lot more interesting. I'm still debating on whether I should use a typeface with more character. That's something I might change out later on. My time is kind of limited today because I'm leaving to go check out the pop-up thrift store my sister is hosting. So I'll have to leave to go to that soon. It's in the 7th district, but I still have let's say another hour or two left to work on this, and I'll just see how far I get. Either I'll finish it in the evening or tomorrow.
Wir sind Film gedreht hier, oder was? Alright.
Okay, so it's the next day. I didn't end up doing any other design work after the thrift store. And I just woke up, looked at the design. Kind of reminds me of packaging design for sunscreen or whatever. So I think I'm just gonna pivot the whole thing. You know what? I even have sunscreen packaging here, and I think I'll just wrap this up in white paper and then stick on some of my design, and then we'll just turn this whole thing into sunscreen packaging. Let's just get going. Alright, so this is where my microphone broke, so I'll do this last part in speed mode. I basically created this die line, which I then filled up with my design. This was pretty straightforward because all I had to do is change out the copy. I also created some animations. Some of them I liked, some of them were really ugly, and I ended up deleting altogether. And then it was time for me to get some paper from the art supply store. I tried to get different versions just so I can play around with different materials. I came back and unpacked the paper, and it was time for me to prepare my cutting supplies. Then I printed out different versions of the die line and obviously had to trace this with my stencil knife, and then it was time to glue it back together. I did this with a couple of different versions. I think I like this gray one the most because it has really cool texture to it. I also tried out this salmon paper color, which I like a lot as well. But yeah, I really enjoyed these experiments. It was the first time I created packaging design, and I also learned a lot by playing around with the printed materials, and I'm definitely going to use this technique in the future. See you next time.